All right, I think we are live. Good morning, everyone. Today is our 19th wedding anniversary too. So happy anniversary, Steve.
Yes, happy
Um,
anniversary, Lens.
but today we're not talking about that. We are in fact talking about well, we want to do ROI live in five, right? We do this each week. And we're coming live to you with something that we believe within 5 minutes we can turn your business around with this little nugget. And today, actually, let me just kick it to you, Steve. What
Yeah.
are we talking about today? And this is probably one of the most important things that we feel like we talk about regularly in our consulting. So, what are we talking about?
Yeah, so I want to set this up a little bit. And this was something I learned more about as we were even running our own business. But I want to make the bold claim that I could actually tell you how healthy your business is with one number. There's only one thing I think if I could answer one question clearly, I can tell you how healthy your business is or not. So I'm going to leave you hanging a little bit on that. And I want to share a quick story because we work with a lot of real estate agents, and a lot of what would happen for me is they'd call us and they go, "Hey, I really need to make a hire. I did 20 million in sales this year," and they like do a little pat on their back, right? And I'm like, "Hey, that's awesome! Congratulations! Yeah, you might need to make a hire." And then I'll ask a question like, "How much did you make?" And they go, "I did 20 million in sales," and I go, "Yeah, I get that." Well, how much did you make? Well, my GCI was 500,000. I said, "Well, how much did you make?" And well, after my splits and everything there, I might have made maybe like 250. And I said, "Well, that's still pretty good. That's awesome. Is that how much you kept?" Well, no, I had expenses and I had taxes. And so maybe I made, I don't know, 175. So the point of the story is your revenue is not your net. And honestly, the only important number, we call it your operating margin. So it's really a simple way to find it, but it's your net income. If your business does not have profitability, you are not going to last for long. And we actually do see that sometimes in
Yeah.
real estate or other businesses where you could have this giant revenue sales number, but maybe no money is being made. And
Yeah.
like that's just not sustainable. And that's a quick way to go out of business. It's actually one of the main reasons that businesses will go bankrupt after 10 years or less. We know that statistic is real. So,
Yeah.
what you need to know as a business owner is it's every cent on the dollar you are keeping. And there's a really easy way to do that. So, that's what I thought we'd talk about today.
Yeah. Well, tell me really quickly, why, like, what's the why behind knowing this number? And then what's a healthy number, Steve, so that people know? Because what I find is like, this is not talked about as much in business, which is mind blowing. I remember the
Yes.
first time I ever heard about, I mean, I knew what margin was, but like I was never tracking it. I just was like, this is what I made, this is my revenue, and this is what I really made, and this is what my taxes said. That's
Yeah.
what that was my whole life, right? That's how I lived. So I know other people are living the way that I did. How do you figure this out? How do you
Yeah.
figure out the number? But before that, what's a healthy one or range for people to be in?
Yeah, and here would be my coaching kind of challenge back, right? If someone's like,
Yeah.
"Why does this matter?" I would ask a question like, "Why are you working? Aren't you working to make
Yeah.
money? Isn't that the sole reason that you're in business?" So if it's about the show and just, "Hey, look at me, I'm XYZ," and like that is not sustainable over time. All of us get into business, at least in part, so that we can make a living and create a great life. So I would say why it matters. This is the money you're actually making for your life. So I think it matters quite a bit. There's a lot of great books out there like Profit First, Michael Michalowicz. There's different ways to get there. You don't even have to do it that way. I think the reason it matters is, this is why you're spending time away from your loved ones and your family. And, like it's the reason you're doing what you're doing. So wouldn't you want to know what you actually want to make in your business? And people aren't clear on it. To
No.
answer your question around the margin, it really does depend on the business. If you're bringing in 20% plus, I would say you're doing really well. It's different in different industries, right? So, if we're looking at like a real estate business, for example, if you're not doing 20% margin, I think you kind of have a problem. You need to really look at
Yeah.
some things and like we might need to beef that up a little bit. But if you're running a landscaping company, you might have a lot more assets. You might need to buy, tractors and skid steers and vehicles. So your margins might look a little different, is the point. I would
Yeah.
say any margin in a business 15 to 20% is very healthy. You could do better than that. You could do worse. But the other reason this matters so much is it allows you to see where you can scale, right?
Yeah.
So if you're over 25% and you're like, hey, pat myself on the back again, I'm making 35%. Well, you might be taking too much out of your business and you might need to reinvest some of that and grow it. So there's different ways you can toggle this. Last question to answer quickly, Lens. Margin is really easy to figure out. It's your operating income divided by your revenue times 100. So basically, you don't even have to get that granular. If even that sounds like, what are you talking about? It's the money you keep at the very end divided by your sales times 100. And that's it. And again, we could help you to figure that out if you're still like, what's he talking about? So,
Yeah, we can absolutely run numbers with you. And it's interesting. Somebody somebody who was watching or is watching, I know there's one watching right now, just messaged me behind the scenes. What is your margin and what do you guys push for in Soprani Consulting? I was just asked.
yeah, that's a great question. We like the number 25%. That is the target that we aim at. And listen, you can go a little up and a little down depending on what your level
Yeah,
of comfort is. The point is, once you set that target, it allows you to look at something on a quarterly or a semi-annual or an annual basis.
yeah,
And as your business grows or shrinks, like you just have to protect that. We've had years, if I'm
yeah,
being totally honest, where we didn't hit that margin goal, but we at
yeah,
least always have the target in mind so we know hey, if we're not making money, like Lindsay and Steve, for example, aren't making money, that can't be sustainable forever. So you need to course correct. So that's the target that we aim at. I think in our industry, that's healthy. But I do think, like, again, if you're in a service-based industry, which a lot of the clients we work with are, 20, 25% is a good number.
yeah. And there are times when we've had 34%, right? And those were years that we were able to reinvest back into the business and grow and bring on some new people and really do things. So the margin matters because then what happens, right, is you can utilize some of that money, right? Because that's money over, what you've got going home to you.
Yeah.
Like you can reinvest into the business, right? There are a lot of times when people don't make a hire until they're like bleeding and they have to make a hire, or they don't make a hire and invest in their business because we've got people in there or whatever, and so once they leave then they're calling. This allows you to then push into, okay, I can do this a little bit, I can grow this there. It'll feel healthier
Yes.
too in your gut, when you're looking at your accounts and stuff. So what else do they need to know? One of the things that we were talking about is, when people, and listen, this is going to sound annoying, so I'll say it because like I'm the one who's known for saying the annoying thing, I guess. But like there's this saying called revenue is vanity and margin is sustainability. So when people call us and are like, I did 50 million and whatever, that great. That's why the margin is needed though, because if you're telling me, well, I only have this much money to spend on somebody, but I did all this. There's a problem there, right?
Yeah.
And so, and by the way, every person that most of the time that I ask, what's your margin? They don't know. They have no clue where they're at. And that's why we think this number is really important. So, like, why track it? How often do they track it? Like, what would a healthy way of like really caring about this, Steve, look like?
Yeah. Again, the why is very easy. It's like, well,
Yeah,
do you want to make money? I think every business person would probably say yes. Why? It's the money that you keep. That's the why.
yeah,
How? I think, we're probably in a rhythm. It's very easy to track on a monthly basis. People are already, doing some form of a P&L. So that's a really easy way to do it. It's what are you netting per month? You could look at it that way.
yep,
I would say this matters a lot psychologically. That's the sustainability piece for me
yeah,
because it's like, is my business on the right path or not? I think if you don't know and you're just kind of like, because people do that, like we get it, like we've been there, like I'm gonna do this marketing thing or I'm gonna sponsor this event, and like you can do some of that, but I think if you're always doing that and you're living in that, like just easy come, easy go, it's gonna weigh on you emotionally, and it'll start to cause you to ask the question of like, am I on the right track? What even is my track? So I think the how is monthly to quarterly, and then, having a goal for it, even on an annual basis. But I think, this is important for you as a business owner. I think it's also really good. Last thing I'll say, Lens, on this is We can't take too much out of our businesses either. So I think
Mm.
that is also a path that will take you away from growth. So, it's a really good barometer for knowing what should I put into my business, and it'll keep it sustainable and fresh if you have extra margin and you're reinvesting in your team or you're reinvesting in, adding new employees or marketing or whatever. You got to know what the numbers are first before you can even get there. So I would say it can help to either know that you have a problem too low, or if you're too high, it will allow you to reinvest in your business the right way. So you need to know this number. I'm just going to flat out and say, if I'm consulting you and you don't know this, you need to call us ASAP. And listen, it'll take us 5 minutes to help you to get clarity on it. But I've seen big businesses, $100 million revenue businesses, not know. And that's not something we're interested in keeping when we're consulting people. We want to help you to understand why this matters.
No, because if you don't know, right, you're what you're doing is bringing more clients in, or if it's a product, it's product, selling more
Yep.
product, right? Which equals more stress for you and the team. Let's be honest there, right? And then there's less profit, and healthy growth, really should protect and improve the operating margin over time. And that's the part, right? When people come to us and they're like so upset. And sometimes this shows up too. I'll just say, like, when somebody's like, I don't know if I have the right people, because they might be taking too much out of their business and they don't have enough to spend on the right people. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a million different problems that could go there, and we can help you guys walk through those things too. But like, knowing this number, knowing where you are, and then looking back even over the course of the last 2 years and just seeing where you were will be really healthy for you, because I can tell you as a business owner, if I'm under 10% monthly or whatever, I'll tell you I can feel it, but I don't even know that that's what's happening, right? I've gotten to that place of like, now if I can go and look, I'm like, oh crap, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and I just feel the stress. And Steve's always got to be like, well, let's go look at the numbers, right? Because I just feel it. And that's how a
Numbers
lot of
tell a
people are like,
story and they don't lie. I think
yeah,
sometimes our interpretation can be a little tricky, but I do
yeah,
think that's why it's important to at least get what is the number, and then it'll start to tell you more of a story of what's going on. That's why I think it's so valuable. So,
yeah. All right. So any questions that you guys have, please, reach out to us. We'd love to work through this with you. We can look at the last 3 years with you, talk through, your business, what's healthy, what's not, and kind of help you figure out what's the pathway forward there. It's not always you taking less money too. It's tweaking things in the business. So happy to do those consulting calls. Those are free for anybody that clicks on any buttons here to schedule something with Steve and I.
yep.
Any lasting thoughts or parting thoughts, Steve, as we go?
Just make it happen. I
Okay.
would say thanks, Linz. It's worth doing, even if
Yeah.
you just do it once a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, people, go be profitable. Thanks,
All right.
Steve.
Bye.
Bye.